malignant carbuncles, Milch septi, Milch brand, Rag Pickers disease, Sangre rate, splenic fever, wool sortus disease. As this disease is an infectious disease that is transmitted from animal to mostly animal to man. That's why it is considered as a zoonotic diseases, or you can say anthropogenotic disease. So this disease is caused by the Bacillus anthracis. As we know that there are certain characteristics of these organisms, though this organism is a aerobic gram-positive aerobic spore former. This is the largest bacterial organism till now in size, and it also, as it is a spore-producing organism, or as you can say, as aerobic spore-producing organism. So it produces the spores in presence of the oxygens, and the spores are generally endospore, that is outside, that is produced outside the living body. The living in the animals or human beings is present in the vegetative form, you can say capsulated forms. The pathogens, that is the presence in the body fluids that comes in contact with the atmospheric air, or you can say in the presence of oxygens, they produce spores. As we know that spore formation is a protective mechanism for the microorganisms, and after a spore formation, the organisms get protected from the adverse environmental conditions. And the spores of this Bacillus anthracis remains viable up to mostly 40 to 60 years in contaminated soils, and may up to 200 or plus minus 50 years the bones of the dead animals. And presence in the, as I told earlier, these organisms presence inside the body in encapsulated forms. So if in diagnosis segment we know how we identify the Bacillus anthracis. So it's these organisms also, you can say, the base of cost postulates that is given by the cost check. According to this cost postulate, you may study in, I have told you in epidemiology, the organisms must be involved in pure culture, must be isolated from the in form of the pure culture from the disease. It can't be associated with the, it should not be associated with the saprophytic conditions, other diseases as opportunistic agents. After recurrent passage, several passages, it retains its virulency in terms of the ability to produce the, you can say, symptoms among the hosts. So again, this organism also produce the basis of, you can say, first vaccines, bacterial vaccines, that is the, you can say, against the anthrax, that is by the Louis Pasteurs. So epidemiology, this among the animals, this anthrax is actually distributed throughout the world, and but majority of the cases reported from the Africa, Asia, and Middle East countries. It's also endemic in Russia, France, as well as India. However, strict legislations leads to the decrease in the incidence of this disease from the Western Europe, Australia, as well as North America. It also leads to the heavy economic loss due to the after 1930s, when effective vaccines are available, and the vaccines of this, you can say, anthrax, that is in animal vaccines, we can say that is known as Prani vaccines. In India, this is also reported from the most of the states, but it's widely spreads from, you can say, the regions like Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. The region behind that, the alkaline soils actually favors the carbonates, or likewise presence in the bicarbonate or carbonate ions. Presence in the soils favors the growth of or formations of the pore formations of the microorganisms. Approximately, the anthrax leads to the cases of 20,000 to 1 lakh cases per annum, and out of which, that is cutaneous anthrax, that constituted by the 95 to 99% of the human cases globally. Endemic in, again, Middle East, Asia, in human cases, Kenya, Gambia, Zimbabwe, Thailand, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, parts of the USSR, Yugoslavia, likewise. In India, very limited geographical locations, the cases of, you can say, human anthrax occurs, and the majority of the cases, you can say, occurs in a at the, you can say, trijunctional zones or area formed by the southwest Andhra Pradesh, southeast Karnataka, and north of the Tamil Nadu. So the trijunctional area, you can say, formed by these states, you can say, that's most of the human, you can say, cases of the anthrax occurs. Now, hostages, mainly herbivores or many wild animals are, you can say, herbivorous wild animals are highly susceptible from this disease. Pig, equines, dogs, and camels are, you can say, moderately susceptible. Carnivores and birds are considered as highly resistant animals from anthrax. Man are moderately resistant. It has no true reservoirs. We can say the reservoir of anthrax is mainly, you can say, soil acts as a reservoir for anthrax, but not soil. We can't say uh, fulfill the, you can say, true definitions of the reservoir. Majority of the occupational disease, so it's responsible for the occurrence of occupational disease. It means the disease occurs to the persons according to their involvement, or you can say according to their occupations. And this disease may occur in the persons who works in the wool sorting industry or wool industry, has a sorting purpose, leather industries, hair industries, meat or bone meal industries, or likewise. Now, the sources of transmission, we can say for animals, in herbivores, actually, ingression and inhalations of the spores, maybe through the contaminated powder or improperly processed food, acts as a main source or outbreak of anthrax in animals. And in carnivores and omnivores, actually, they are, we can say, they are actually highly resistant, but in some carnivores, the cases of anthrax may occur due to the ingestions of the infected carcass or contaminated meat, direct contact with the body secretions or tissues of the diseased animals or dead animals, or contaminated through the contaminated fomites like soil, water, organic fertilizer, hair, wool. In animals also, it also transmitted to the indirect contact during agricultural operations or animal husbandry operations, like during feeding, watering, and etc. Accidental inoculations of the pathogens inside the skin, surgical operations like dehorning, castrations, etc. Mechanical transmissions may occur by the vectors, that is, blood-sucking fly or biting flies like blowflies, horseflies, scavenging animals and birds may in a contamination of the soils as well as the water bodies. Direct animal to animal transmissions rarely occurs. No evidence of its transmission through the milk. Now, in human beings, it may transmitted to either direct contact or indirect contact. Direct exposure to the anthrax, maybe during the animal husbandry operations, agricultural operation, post-mortem examinations, treatment of the animals, rendering, slaughtering process, dressing and removal or handling of the hides. These all direct contact with contaminated source leads to the cutaneous anthrax, which the organisms may get inhaled during the various operations. Just I told, like the persons involved in the wool sorter industry, they may expose to the spores of the anthrax and lead to the pulmonary anthrax. And that's why this pulmonary anthrax is also known as called as wool sorter's disease. So now ingestions of the meat that is contaminated with or that is of derived from the, you can say, infected carcass of anthrax, animals of anthrax, that may leads to the gastrointestinal form of the anthrax. Infections may be acquired during the laboratory handling, so accidental inoculations of these organisms during laboratory infections. As we know, the standing vaccines is the live attenuated spore bags. Live vaccines, organisms are live. So we may got infections if there is any reversal in their, you can say, antigenic natures, or there is improper attenuations of the organisms, there are always chances of during laboratory handlings. Person to person transmission, that is extremely rare, but may during the wound dressings or other communal food, we can say sharings or likewise. Direct exposure to the anthrax spore, indirect exposure to anthrax spore may be by the mechanical vectors, that is table fly, horsefly, or mosquito, but these are rarely reported. Use of the infected needle for, you can say, may act as a or indirect transmissions of the anthrax spore. Now diseases in animals. So as we know, there are anthrax is well-known disease of, you can say, herbivorous animals, and the anthrax-infected animals may show the several mucosal congestions leading to the hemorrhage from the mouth, anus, or nares. So we can say in other body, we can say the oozings of the dark tarry colored unclotted bloods from the natural orifices, all natural orifices. That is the, you can say, pathognomonic lesions. That is the, if these symptoms or signs are present, we can say this is the case of anthrax. That's the pathognomonic lesions are those lesions that you can say that ensures the definite diagnosis of a disease or different symptoms of a disease, you can say. So then elevated body temperatures may 42 to 41 degrees centigrades in the cattle, dyspnea, that is difficult in breathing, generalized edema, that is again a most peculiar symptoms of anthrax infected animals. Excitations or depressions, anorexia, convulsions, these are some generals, you can say, symptoms. Staggering gaits, diarrhea, dysentery, abortion, blood stained male, absence of rigor mortis, that is again a characteristics of these animals, you can say, died from the anthrax. So now in herbivores, that this disease may occur in, you can say, hyperacute form, hyperacute conditions due to the toxemia. As we know, the anthrax organisms, there are three toxins or factors that are responsible for the occurrence of disease. That is the lethal factors, protective antigens, and edema factors. Presence of all these factors are necessary to initiate a disease, and we can say the occurrence mainly depend. Though there are two virulence again mechanisms, there that is the capsules and we can say that's the plasmid. Plasmid, that is PXO1 and PXO2 plasmids, are definitely, you can say, responsible for the occurrence of disease. One plasmid is encoded for the capsules of the organisms. Other plasmids are encoded for the, you can say, the different virulence factors for these organisms. So that's high level things. So it have in hyperacute that conditions, they can say there is a sudden death of the animals within 10 to 24 hours, that have high case fatality rate. And anthrax may occur in apoplectic forms, fulminant, or per acute, we can say simply wording, we can say per acute forms, hyperacute forms, or per acute forms. Cutaneous anthrax may occur by the bite in animals or herbivorous animals by the bite of mechanical vectors, wound contaminations, or death usually occurs before discharge or carbuncle development. There is no cutaneous lesions mainly develops in animals, and animal gets died before the, you can say, occurrence of the cutaneous lesions. So again, the gastrointestinal forms are more common in herbivorous animals. Now, in carnivorous animals, the disease may be fatal, or may sometimes recovery may takes place. Again, you can say intestinal forms are occasional occurrence, and on the carbuncle lesions are may develop on tongue or oropharynx. Now in man, most of the, you can say, most of the time in examination, it is asked that write the forms of anthrax or describe the forms of anthrax. We can say that in man, the incubation period of disease, this anthrax is variables, that may incubation period of disease may usually 2 to 5 days, or human anthrax mainly occurs in kill form. Cutaneous anthrax, that is by the contact from the infected animals or meat, infected meat or contaminated meat or carcass or hide or skins. Pulmonary forms mainly due to the inhalations of anthrax spores, maybe during the you can say wool sortings or any other operations, and that's why this pulmonary form of anthrax is known as wool sorters disease. Gastrointestinal form, that is mainly due to the ingestions of the contaminated, you can say uncooked or semi-cooked meats of the animals. So cutaneous forms, or that is also known as malignant pustules or eschars, and it occurs in most of the 90% of the human anthrax cases. And as we know, the spores enter into the skin through the cuts or abrasions over the hands or other part of the body. And however, this disease is generally self-limiting disease, but if occurs, that's may characterized by the certain lesions, that is the formations of the papules, then there is a necrotic area, then development of black scars or carbuncles surrounded by a edematous zone or swelling, we can say, and finally, pus conditions, pus may arise occurs, but due to the secondary bacterial infection. Other symptoms may fevers है, chills है, headaches है, nausea, anorexia, dyspnea. These are generalized symptoms. Various symptoms. You have to remember like this: formations of the pustules that becomes necrotized, and later on there is a ruptures of the pustules, and there is development of the black scars, carbuncle that is surrounded by the edematous area. Next is the pulmonary forms, or that is also known as Wool-Sorter's disease. This mainly transmitted or occurs through the inhalations of the airborne spores, maybe during the handling of the raw wool, hide, bone meal, blood meal, like meat meal likewise. And this form is characterized by the fever, dyspnea, pneumonia, or you can say pulmonary symptoms or respiratory symptoms, emphysema, cardiac failure, septicemia may occur. You can say that's when in that condition it is a highly fatal disease and leads to the death in few hours cases. Third form is the intestinal forms. Then this is mainly due to the ingestions of the spores, anthrax spore from the contaminated or infected meat, ingestion of the infected meat or milk or you can say other food stuffs. And it's mainly characterized by the formation of the scars or malignant carbuncle on the oropharynx, stomach, duodenum or upper ileum. And the most common symptoms of this is nausea, vomition, anorexia, fever, abdominal pain, but due to bloody diarrhea, tenderness of right upper and lower quadrant of the body. Now diagnosis. Most of the things you may know in my you studied in microbiology department, but again we can recall here. So diagnosis of the anthrax in animals may perform based on the you can say history or clinical signs, the history of sudden death, bleeding from the natural orifices, the carcass. But again, one thing we have to take care: the carcass of the animals that infected from the anthrax never opened, or we can, in simple wording, we can say the postmortem examinations in case of the anthrax dead carcass never be performed. If but by chance, if we can say perform the postmortem examination, there is a most peculiar symptom lesions that we found inside the body, that is called as we can say um, that is a splenomegaly. We can see, but that's not postmortem examinations not recommended. So next is the microscopic examinations. We can blood may form the blood smears, that is from the ear clipping, and maybe from laryngeal edema in case of dog and pig, and mesenteric lymph nodes, mainly you can say from the sea, in case of the sheep, goat, and horse, that are stained with you can say uh, polychromethylene blue stains, and that's reactions is called as you can say McFadden reaction. That is that stains are capsules because we are staining the blood smear. We are staining the blood smear. So inside the body, these organisms are present in capsulated forms. So here capsular a stained uh, pink color, and the cells, the vegetative cells of this organism stains blue, takes the blue color. So blood from the ear veins prepare smears stained with the polychrome methylene blue, and fixed that smears are fixed with either heat or emulsion in the one for 1 minute in absolute alcohol. And after staining with the polychrome methylene blue, it stains the capsules, gets a stains of as a pink color, and the cells are vegetative cells, we can say, a stains of the blue color. So you have to remember always in examination may ask to write McFadden reaction. So it is the reactions when the blood smears of the, you can say, blood smears from the ear pinch, ear clippings may stands with the polychrome methylene blue. The capsules gets, you can say, the pink colors, or the vegetative cells gets the blue colors, or capsules mainly reddish purple color, or bacilli or vegetative cell, we can say, that takes the blue color, and this reaction is called as McFadden reaction. तो important है, ऐसे note कर लीजिएगा. Now the third is the isolation of the organisms, mainly the isolation of bacillus synthesis organism performed on blood agar, and it's characterized, it's have you can say characteristic morphology of the bacilli. We can see that is the colony on the blood agar during microscopic examination occurs as it gives the appearance of medusa head appearance. You may learned previously what is medusa head. So if you not learned, then go through the internets or likewise. What is who is medusa like? So
Yes.
inoculations of the, you can say, in laboratory animals are again a mode of other mode of the diagnosis. Inoculation in the guinea pig, subcutaneous inoculations, or intraperitoneal inoculations in the mice, or clinical from with the clinical material that is mainly 0.5 ml, and that cures the death of these laboratory animals within 30 to 40 hours. Now, next diagnosis is the ascoli precipitation test. This is again a important questions, most commonly asked in the examinations. So it's in this we use the anthrax hyperimmune serum against the attenuated anthrax spores, and that is detected. And you can say this test, this is mainly test is called a thermoprecipitation test. And by this test, we can say the antigens, that is per hide antigen or tissue antigens, are detected on the basis of, we can say, antigen reactions. So next is the serological tests that are mainly highly specific, that is ELISA or other tests. Molecular tests like PCRs, or that is again reported high with high sensitivity as well as high specificity. Now, in man, the presumptive diagnosis based on the characteristic symptoms, characteristic lesions of SCHARs or black SCHARs, history of the cases, mainly the risk of populations that belongs to the endemic areas, but confirmatory diagnosis we can go for different diagnostic ad described earlier. In any animal diagnosis, you can say, again we can go for diagnosis of the anthrax cases in human being. So now the treatment, that is the penicillin, that is again we know the penicillin is the drug of choice for most of the gram-positive organisms. So for treatment, penicillin with 5 to 7 days by intramuscular or intravenous route, or you can say oral route. Most of the penicillin drugs are mainly available in injectable form. Streptomycin, that is also so the, you can say, synergistic effect with penicillins. Other drugs may use tetracycline, gentamicin, erythromycin, chloramphenicol. So now prevention and control of disease. So first is the immunization. So this vaccine, the animals may be of endemic area may be immunized with the vaccines, that is most commonly called single dose of the vaccine, that is called an anthrax spore vaccine, that is called as Astrani vaccines, that is the attenuated live spore vaccines that injected subcutaneous route. Vaccine contains the live spore, and generally these vaccines are most commonly used, that is the Astrani vaccine. Proper disposal of the carcass. Anthrax carcass should not be opened. The carcass should be destroyed either by the burning or disposed with the deep burial methods, and at least 6 feet under thick cover of calcium oxides, or you can say lime or quick limes, followed by the chemical disinfection with the formalins. Ground or area where carcass was lying should be disinfected, or you can say whole premises of the farm where animal diets, we should have to disinfect. Infection may be performed by the spray, you can say spray of the 3% parasitic acid, 3 to 5% of the formaldehyde solutions. Now, care in handling of the livestock. So, early diagnosis and prompt chemotherapy or treatment, we can say, of the sick animals may leads to the recovery of the cases, slaughter of and suspected animals. So, but it not recommended. Animal from endemic area may be quarantined before slaughter or admixing with the new animals. Slaughtering generally not recommended for this. Early diagnosis and therapy only. Isolation of the animals may recommended. Wound dressing for persons with cutaneous lesions are mainly not allowed to, you can say, handle the livestock or their feed or fodder. So, management purpose, as we know, this disease is considered a notifiable disease. Notifiable disease means those diseases that you can say you got if you detected, identified or diagnosed in the field conditions you have by your higher officer. So reporting for these notifiable diseases are compulsory. So notify to surveillance, monitoring and controlling agency or your higher officers, avoid feeding of contaminated feeds, and avoid handling of the grazing on the contaminated, you can say, areas. Insect control measures may adopted. In man, immunizations, however, no effective vaccines are used available till date. Some vaccines may be reported, but no effective vaccines for human immunity available till date. Human animal industry hygienes or managements may taken care, that is the control of disease in animal population, care handling of the animal product, byproduct, use of the personal protective measures, equipments during handling of animals, disinfection of the factory premises with the formalins, medical care and management of the. It's total about the Anthrax. Now, if you have any questions, you may ask.
Right, sir. Hello, Bipin. Bipin.